this takes us to the last panel discussion of the day on the state of manufacturing. And we are joined by Mr. Rakesh Kumar Chokhani, General Manager and Head Operations HPVP Unit Vizag, BHEL. Mr. Vinod Kumar Gaur, Chairman and Managing Director from National Seeds. Dr. Shefali Das, Distinguished Fellow, Scotch Development Foundation and former Director General, National Informatics Center. Mr. G.B. Panda, Senior Fellow, Scotch Development Foundation and former Planning Commission. We also have with us Mr. Madan Mohan, Senior Fellow, Scotch Development Foundation and former Chief General Manager, NABARD and CEO of NABARD Consulting. When we talk about manufacturing, the state of manufacturing, in fact, the participants here, including BHEL and National Seeds, they come from two divergent streams. But when it comes to manufacturing, it doesn't really mean that either you are into the hardcore manufacturing or you're enabling manufacturing. So this was a question which was posed to me even before we invited our esteemed panelists for the discussion, particularly for BHEL. While you come from an industry which supports the power sector, you are into manufacturing in addition to several other things, huge transformers, for instance. Also at the same time, the problems like the pandemic which unfolded in front of us affected everyone, including yourselves. So moving beyond pandemic, whatever this caused, whatever disruptions it caused in business operations, although you carried on exactly the way our other, the PSU, the public sector undertakings did, the incidence of cyber vulnerabilities also increased at the same time. To talk about carrying on manufacturing and the supply chains uninterruptedly, minimizing and mitigating all kind of cybersecurity risks, having zero data leakage, and enabling everyone to start working from home and securing those endpoints. So these are some contributions that have been brought forth by BHEL. So let me invite Mr. Chokhani and try and understand from him, both on the business continuity as well as manufacturing and the supply chain, in addition to maintaining the cyber security, your contributions. Mr. Chokhani.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, please. You are.
Chairman Scotch Group and distinguished panelist and August gathering. Good afternoon to everybody here. First, I would like to thank Scotch Group that they have provided a platform for sharing the lessons we learned during pandemic, and how we are taking the measures, what we are doing. As we all know that BHEL is a Maharatna company working on a mission of providing sustainable business solutions in the field of energy, industry, structure. Historically, these pandemic or plagues have ravaged the humanity always, but at the same time, often they are created with the changing course of history. And in this case, we have come across like that situation only. In case of BHEL, the problem has multiplied because of our complicated physical spread. Our geographical spread is very wide. We are having 16 manufacturing units all across India with lot of interlinkages and interdependence on each one of them. Moreover, all our customers, which are from power sector and industry sector, are normally having their power stations and sites at remote locations, which posed a lot of challenges in connectivity as well as in transportation. But after the initial shock, we rose to the occasion and very quickly accepted the situation and took measures to address this pandemic. I would like to touch upon the points where our company could mitigate these risks, how we have handled the risk of this pandemic, as well as how this pandemic has created an opportunity for BHEL. That also I would like to touch upon. As we all know that BHEL is a hardcore manufacturing company, unlike other industries of IT and banking or finance. We are hardcore engineering company where our artisans are required to rub shoulders to create a product. So we always thought that remote working or working from home is not our cup of tea. It is not suitable for organizations like us. But this pandemic taught us exactly the opposite. And now we have adopted remote working in a significant way. I would like to give some examples. Like in our case, our products are tailor-made products, customized products. And this requires a lot of customer interventions in terms of validation of drawings, quality plans, and then inter-stage inspections and all, which required visits of customers very frequently. But in pandemic, it all was restricted. So we adopted the online inspections, online interactions, and videography of all the processes, and could get even the final clearances from our customers like HAL or defense or NTPC and public sectors very successfully and smoothly. Similarly, we encouraged our suppliers to get clearances from our engineers with using the remote technologies. We are a government office, you know, and our customers also are mostly from government sector. So we require a lot of paperwork, but you would be happy to know that now we are 100% paperless. All our offices are 100% paperless. All our proposals, including financial approvals, have shifted to e-office. It is a online system on which we smoothly and seamlessly carry out all our approvals. And so all the offices have become paperless totally. Then for our designers and procurement teams, when it came to a pandemic and lockdown and we had to meet the challenges of our commitments with the customers, that time we provided access to our designers at home for the fast speed network through VPN with a controlled access. As you were telling, luckily our cyber system was very, very robust, and we have not faced till date single event of data leakage or any intrusion in our system. From the start, our systems in IT are very, very robust. And as soon as we found that there are certain problems in some web platform, we took another one and license versions only, and stopped all the access of different platforms which are freely available and earlier we were using. Coming to the manufacturing facilities, some of the things which we thought earlier that these are not having utility factor have become worth utilization now. Like robotics, we thought that robotics is useful only for the repetitive task, but we had to delinquent it. And any operations requiring 2 persons or more, now we are exploring the option of cobots. Can we use cobots for this, robotic arms for it, where more than 1 persons are required? Can we use that so that interaction of persons at shop floor can be minimized? We are using artificial intelligence and IoT vastly for our predictive maintenance, and similarly for our inventory management, we are using RFID, robotic trucks, robotic forklifts, all these things we are using as a measure for non-touch and non-contactless working. I'm sure that with all these changes, our system will become more resilient, and even after pandemic, we will reap benefit. But a key issue remains with the social engineering. all our employees are required to be assured about their health and their protection. As a management, we require to assure them that we are taking good care of their health and welfare. And for that, only lip service or offering them or saying them that they are heroes of the work and all will not serve. So we immediately changed our systems, and now immediately after pandemic, we have allowed online referrals for the medical consultations. We tied up with our empaneled hospitals for the medical, all the medical help they want to take online. And not only this, BHL is the company where we have provided a platform where a person and his family, an employee and his family can take support from the experts for their mental well-being, mental health, or any problems related with the depression and other things. During the pandemic, we have contributed towards the society also in big way. Our water technology we have used for manufacturing and developing a machine which was useful for the mass spray and mass sanitization. We have manufactured it for the purpose of our factories and colonies. But soon it became very popular with the district authorities, and already we have supplied more than 30 machines to different authorities. We called it BHL Mister. Today we have got an award for developing electrostatic disinfectant equipment. This equipment is based on micro-based charge system of liquid droplets, and it is handy in sanitization of indoor places like hospitals, lounges, offices, all that. Now coming to the opportunities this pandemic has created for us, I would like to touch upon that also, and why we are so bullish on manufacturing at BHL and at India is that when this COVID came, most of our countries realized that there is a danger, big danger in concentration of manufacturing at single place. And they all felt the need of broad basing, but widening their base for production. And that time in May 2020, our Honorable Prime Minister gave a call of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And I'm happy to share that BHL very promptly responded to it and became first Indian company who floated an expression of interest, EOI, inviting global OEMs for shifting their production base from China and other countries to India by leveraging our infrastructure, our capabilities. We shared with them that we are having 16 locations and many other offices. We are having extensive built-up space for all type of industrial and commercial activities. We are having surplus land bank also. At the same time, our 34,000 strong workforce is technically qualified and experienced, and it includes 9,000 qualified engineers. This all has attracted foreign OEMs very much. India became the best option for the investment on account of a strong legal framework, very young population, and a growing economy with a large consumer base. And I'm happy to share that we got a very good response against this EOI. We got 63 responses so far, out of which 35 responses are from the foreign OEMs across the sectors for transportation, for e-mobility, oil and gas, power equipments, and some of them are for contract manufacturing. We are working actively on these proposals and would be bringing latest technologies in India. We have already entered into the new sectors like metro rails, oil and gas, refinery full packages, batteries, and e-vehicles. In a nutshell, I can say that response of BHL to pandemic was to realign ourselves and convert this adversity into an opportunity by grasping the emerging technologies, by keeping our cyber system perfect and resilient enough for any intrusion, by mapping our processes and resources so that we can understand what and where we need to intervene, and at the same time encouraging collaborations with all, with technology providers, with our customers, and with our suppliers. That is from my side. Thank you very much.
Chokhani sir, that was great. Thank you so much for sharing innate details with us. We'll come back to you with our questions. In the meanwhile, let me move over to the National Seeds. The contribution made by the National Seeds Corporation, which undertakes the production of certified seeds of more than 600 varieties across 60 crops consisting of cereals, pulses, fiber, fodder, so on and so forth. It's in its farms and through its registered seed owners. A very, very important role played by the National Seeds Corporation, which contributes to a great extent to India's food security and the entire food processing industry, which then gets in turn benefited by the efforts made by the National Seeds Corporation. So it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Vinod Kumar Gaur, Chairman and Managing Director, to talk about as to how is it even during the pandemic times that nothing has been impacted, because we have gone through the second sowing season within this, and much prior to that there has been a complete preparedness which ensured availability of quality seeds at affordable rates. They've also created demos and field, they do field trials, and with the thrust on production and particularly on the vegetable seeds, which has registered an increase of 94% in the last 5 years. So great achievements. Over to you, Mr. Gaur.
Thank you, Chair, for giving such a elaborate and good introduction. Good afternoon to the Chair, all the panelists, and all the participants. As has been introduced that agriculture plays a very important role, and you are aware that there is no impact on the food security as far as COVID is concerned. And still we are giving free food up to about our 80 crore population, which is going without charging. So it was only due to our, filling of our go down with all the basic food items. Particularly, there is sufficient quantity of wheat, rice, and as well as pulses. So, and this is only because that we had the quality seed with us, which has resulted in carrying all the technology of agriculture with the seed. Because if seed is not, quality seed is not there, other inputs, they don't work. So the potential of seed takes all other technologies with it. And NSC is with that seed. I used to call myself as the largest farmer of India, having about 55,000 acres of the land where we are producing our seed. And you see, it is only not that if something goes wrong, it affects your 3-year seed production chain. So first we produce breeder seed, then foundation seed, and then finally the certified seed, which is given to the farmer for commercial crop production. So if anything goes wrong with the breeder seed, it means for further 3 years you are suffering with the foundation seed or the certified seed. So our major focus was how to save this breeder and foundation seed so that in next 2 years we could not face any shortage of seeds. And as I mentioned earlier also that we have not seen any COVID lockdown in our farms. Result being that during the month of March, most of the crops were at the harvesting stage. And fortunately, I am proud to convey that up to opening of first lockdown, there was no COVID case in our any farm or any processing unit, where we took so much care that there was no any COVID cases. And still as of now, our total the figure is only less than 20. So that much care was taken so that our staff doesn't suffer and our chain doesn't, the chain was maintained. And luckily, we were able to all do our operation and preserve all the seed. Now the seed, again, the after production, processing, and then further distribution was the big challenge. And I congratulate my team that it went smoothly. Of course, we faced a lot of labor problem, and then handling the labor with all precaution with the COVID and all these danger. But fortunately, we could not. The things went so smoothly that we were able to save our breeder seed. So we are rest assured for next 2 years. Then foundation seed, and of course we distributed the certified seed. And this Kharif, country is going to get highest yield. The reasons are that the increase in the area and good monsoon along with all the inputs. Government of India was also very prompt, and there was no lockdown overall as far as agriculture was concerned. Even if our dealers were allowed to open the shops and to distribute the inputs. So this Kharif is going to be a highest food grain production, and accordingly the Rabi season also, it is going to give further boost to the because of good rains. So I hope this year the country is going to surpass all the past record of food grain production. And at the same time, because of pre-distribution of food grains to the maximum population, again, there is a lot of challenges to fill those godowns. So I hope that we are going to achieve, and we are going to get highest yield, and there won't be any problem as far as food is concerned. And we usually quote that when there is if something goes wrong and some curfew is there, so if you lift the curfew, only people will go for food. So the country's peace is depend on agriculture. That's why our Prime Minister Shastriji told Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. The Jawan can only save the country from outside attack. But if valley is empty, you cannot save the country, because everybody, there will be looting and all that. So the topmost agriculture scientist, and only one Nobel Prize in agriculture was not given for science. It was given for peace to Dr. Norman Borlaug. So we quoted that agriculture is much more as far as country's peace is concerned. So you will find that there are very rare cases where you will find that people were hungry during COVID. So that was the situation of agriculture, and we were there. Now focus we are shifting towards nutri-cereals, and just to see that malnutrition, how to remove that. So the crops which are biofortified means the crops which are having high nutrient content, those varieties we are selecting. At the same time, as you have mentioned, we have focused on our vegetable seeds. Now again, focus we are giving for integrated soil management, where we are giving the seeds of green manure, so that for future we can conserve our soil and we can reduce the chemical fertilizer to some extent. So green manure seeds are also being made available. Again, we are focusing that to the remotest place the seed is made available, and we have selected over 400 dealers during the current year, so that at the mandi level or at the taluka level, seed is made available. So overall, publicity promotions work are being done to apprise the farmers, and main focus is being given to the reasonable price to the farmers. That is main issue, as PM has declared that we have to double the farmers' income by 2022. So we are focusing on reducing the input cost. At the same time, the output cost is increased, so the net income to the farmer is increased. So on those lines, the reduction in seed price along with increase in productivity. These two are the focus area of the company. During COVID period, of course, since it was a harvesting season, so our all the sprayers and they were provided to the district administration for spray of all the sanitizer or say chemicals are to be sprayed. So during in the Ganganagar district and in the Hisar district, all the sprayers of the company, they were provided to the administration to help the to contain the impact of COVID. So that was the CSR along with the other activities, providing mask and all that, sanitizer, small bottles and all that to the adjoining villages in the area. So that's all what NSC. I hope that with the seed and with the particularly preservation of our breeder and foundation seed, again, I am quite confident that in coming 2 years, there won't be any shortage of seed in the country. Thereby, there won't be any loss of production as far as agriculture is concerned. And of course, during COVID, government is giving all priorities to the agriculture sector so that peace is maintained in the country. And once again, I thank ISCOS. We are continuously getting the award from last 4 years as far as agriculture and seed production is concerned. So with all these, I again thanks for all the participants for giving a patient sharing. Thank you very much.
You know, the good work always comes in for high praise and appreciation. And as while you spoke, I could see Mr. Madan Mohan resonating with the thoughts that you were expressing. So here we have him as an agri expert and as a professional who has spent a lifetime, in the field. So Madan Mohanji, I would like to bring you in at this stage with your expert comments and whatever Mr. Gaur has submitted as far as securing ensuring that there's no seed shortage. Also at the same time, easy availability, increasing the production and ensuring food security for the country. Please unmute.
Thank you, Gusharanji. And thank you, Mr. Gaur, for making a very good presentation. See, I have been in this field and there's nothing much to ask, but one thing which keeps on hitting my mind is, you see, why we still keep on importing pulses and seeds, no? I mean, oil seeds especially. Because this National Seed Corporation is doing good work, there is no doubt. But is there any plan to see that we reduce our imports ultimately and become self-sufficient?
Thank you, sir. The oil seed which you have mentioned, I think it has not got much popularity in the media, but recently, and what we were telling, it is the issue of farmer getting remunerative income from production of oil seed. That was the major issue. And recently, from 1st of October, you might be knowing, sir, that blending of mustard oil has been stopped by Government of India. Of course, there is some litigation going on, but the notification is there. So why we have raised this issue? There is blending of in every oil, edible oil, you find blending of palm oil or some oil of lower this thing. So I'll just give you the example of NSC only, because whatever seed is not converted as a seed means if it we are doing value addition. So I took that example to Honorable Minister. The NSC is selling its mustard oil at that time, it was, I think, 1 liter 117 rupees without any blending. But the market price of mustard oil was ranging from, say, 80 rupees to 100 rupees. So I simply went to them, sir, I am calculating the mustard price as a 38 rupees and my cost is coming 117 rupees. So if 38 rupees is the mustard price and 117 rupees is the cost, then how one can sell it at 90 rupees? It is only because the palm oil is being mixed, which is costing 40 to 50 rupees. So until or unless we stop blending, so after just the impact of that, I am telling you, the mustard mixing has been, I mean, the mixing in mustard oil has been banned by Government of India from 1st October. Now you see the result, sir. Today mustard is being sold at 56 rupees a kg. So it has gone from 38 rupees to 56 rupees. Now if farmer gets 56 rupees a kg for mustard in coming year, they are going to produce mustard. But until or unless farmer get the remunerative price for this, which is only possible if we stop the blending. So most of the oil which you are mentioning, sir, it is all palm oil which is coming to India through import. And it is having the impact on our price to the farmer for oil seed. So until or unless, so what farmers does, he takes the oil seed in the field which are not suitable for cereals. But if he gets the remunerative price, he will definitely prefer the field which is best for the oil seed production. So that is the reason that our oil seed production is not coming up. But with the new initiative of government, I think it is going to happen, sir. And we are ready. And with this year, in mustard, which we used to sell about, say, 4,000 or 5,000 quintal, now it has gone to 33,000 quintal. And next year, Government of India has given us the target to supply 130,000 quintal of mustard seed to the farmers, so that there is no shortage of mustard seed, because the farmers this year, they are going to get very good price for mustard. And next year, they are going to switch over most of the, I mean, maybe switch over from wheat to mustard, particularly in Rajasthan and this belt, Madhya Pradesh. So if this goes well, I think in days to come, the oil seed, the oil import, edible oil import will go down. And I have requested the Honorable Minister that, sir, it is only not in mustard, you please do it for groundnut, sunflower, whatever oil we are taking. Let the consumer decide what he want to mix. He want to take 40 rupees palm oil or 117 rupees oil. And how the customer can know it is, you have allowed him up to 20%, 50%, how the customer can find out it is 30% blending or 40% blending or this thing. So I hope that if they stop this blending, definitely oil seed production is going to increase and ultimately the import is going to reduce.
Okay. Mr. God, please, your point is well taken. Tell me about steps you have specifically taken in reducing your input cost, especially farmers' input cost in terms of seed supply. Have you reduced the cost of seeds being supplied to them, or any other thing which you have done?
Yes, sir. We have the, I don't have the slide as of now, but I'll give you the example of vegetable and example of fodder seed. If you just compare, our prices are just half of the seed cost which private is selling. Sir, I will give a few examples. If you see the bottle guard seed which NSC is giving, it is 1,500 rupees a kg. However, market prices are 3,000 rupees a kg. Brinjal, my price is 3,500 rupees. The market price is 6,000 rupees. Carrot, my price is 450. The market price is 1,800 rupees. Surprising in chili, if you see, my price is 10,000 rupees. Market price is ranging from 23,000 to 62,000. So this is how the prices are ranging. If we come in the cereals, paddy, I am selling 250 rupees a kg, hybrid paddy. The private, it is ranging from 3,000 to 4,800, 300 to 480 a kg. So same, I mean, there are the maize 120 rupees we are selling, where market it is 360 rupees. So the price, but only the issue only was that the gimmick of publicity and promotions were not being done by us. Still, we were using cloth bag and all that. Our private used to come with POP bag and all. Then they were doing publicity promotions, which we have also changed our product, this thing. I hope that with new initiative, because as of now, we were only focusing in government system and supply through government schemes. But now, from last 4 years, we have arranged about 2,500 dealers. So we are giving equal importance to dealer. And again, various sort of campaign like Jeep campaign, publicity promotion through posters, demonstrations, they are being done. I hope in days to come, when the product is same, we will be able to, compete with the private, and we have purchased the coating machine and all that, what they are doing. So if we give the same product and products are almost same, so if farmer gets the same result, I hope that in days to come, they can, they will have the trust on NSC seed, and if they are getting the same yield, why they will pay higher price to the private parties?
Okay, thank you. I think let others ask. Then in between, I'll again intervene.
All right. So on the technology bit, which Mr. Chokhani was talking about, so I would like to invite Dr. Shefali Das, Distinguished Fellow with Scotch Development Foundation and former DG, National Informatics Center. Shefali ji, you are muted.
Well, they have used a lot of technologies. I don't know. Frankly speaking, I am no expert in the seed manufacturing side, so I can't really ask him any question. But I can ask about the technology used by BHL for their how they manage work from home and all these things. So I mean, sorry, seed manufacturing is not my forte. Sorry about that. I don't know much about them. But well, I'm very keen to know, because BHL is a large organization and you do have a lot of centers in different places, and you work on varieties manufacturing as well as office and marketing. So how did you manage to train all your workforce on the technology side? Because all of them are not, the office staff maybe it's okay, but even the factory floor people, how did you manage to include them and motivate them to work like this?
Very well, Madam Dr. Sefali. Very good question. And it came to our mind also when we started with this in a new era of pandemic, where we resorted to work from home and remote technologies and all. And it is amazing. Actually, we underestimate our workforce and as well as our manpower. When we are using this WhatsApp and other infrastructure so widely, it's very easy for them to understand and grasp. I give you an example that recently I had a talk on general BHL perspective and all with my employees here at HVVP. So out of 800 employees, we are having only 120 executives and supervisors whom we thought are well versed with the technology and all. But when we invited on a Sunday, more than 300 people participated into it and also interacted with me on the future of BHL and what we are doing and how we are doing. So I think we are underestimating our workforce, that they are not easily adaptable on these new technologies. For two things were there, like e-office, we had online sessions. Even I was not aware of the e-office, but within 1 or 2 sessions, we understood the initial thing. And then like in other technologies, computer, most of the things you can learn by using it. So when we emphasized on the use of it, that do maximum application of it, and then you will easily learn. So even only in the initial days, we face this type of problem, that people are not understanding how to unmute, how to mute, how to, what are the protocols for the web meetings, We started with the Zoom, then we came to WebEx, and afterward, now we are using LifeSize. So, but now it is very easily, every day we are doing the kickoff meeting also virtually, where for 15-20 minutes, my whole staff and major executives are connected with that. And through them, it goes to my artisans also. But even direct contact, if I want to directly interact with my workforce, that is also very much possible through video recording as well as through direct interaction on these platforms. We have made halls where we can make them sit in batches of 20, 30, and with the social distancing, and make their this video available where they can interact and connect with us. So on the similar fashion, we are running this our online training platforms also. Similarly, in our corporate office, every month and on major occasions, we used to fly to Delhi. All unit heads used to fly, and their top management committee meetings were happening. But nowadays, it is very easily happening at WebEx or other platforms, web platforms, and we are connected. And I am thinking that my top management can vouch for that. That now the interactions has become much more. Earlier, it was interactions once in a month. Now it is more than 4 times a month, because for any issue, now very easily directors and CMD or any top management person can interact with the unit heads and talk to them, can invite them for the different programs, even quality programs or productivity, Hindi program. All these programs now we can participate with the corporate seamlessly. As compared
it's
to
very heartening to know. Yeah, it's very heartening to know that we are
But,
underestimating the floor people.
our infrastructure was there, that which was connecting all the sites. We are already having infrastructure where all our sites and offices are connected on a single platform. And we had emphasized from the start that whatsoever software, whatever computer system cake, it should all be on the single platform. We have a centralized digital technology center at the corporate office, and which is assisted by Hyderabad also. So these two centers ensure that all the technologies we take and use at our systems should be uniform. So that has provided us a very seamless interaction.
What about
And
the mindset?
time,
What
our corporate
about the
digital teams
mindset?
have done a wonderful job. And whatever problems we are facing in VPN and fast access of we faced initially some problems in use of softwares, especially the design softwares, which are very heavy. And when persons tried to use them from the home, then that time they were giving some problems. But after initial issues, these things were resolved by our digital teams, which are very well versed with these things. So we are as of now we are not.
Did you face any issue of mindset?
No, I think there we got very easily. People have come to the occasion that this is the now the norm of the day, and it has to be done. And they are now finding it much more easy. Like I told you that every morning I have to do a kickoff meeting. So every executive, every AGM used to come to my office, and here we used to gather 8, 9 people, 10 people. Now with the interaction, their 20, 30 minutes are saved. So they can easily sitting at their table, at their seat, they can interact and can carry on their some routine work also. So that is a very easy job now, and it is giving more comfort to them. And now I am getting
so in that case, okay, so yeah, I understand. So in that case, do you think after the pandemic is over and travel becomes, free and all, will you still continue with this kind of working, or would you like to go back to physical meetings?
We are going to certainly, madam. We are going to continue with this. I'm telling you that from defense, we are having some customers in defense, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and all, which are very, very closed organizations, and they have security issues and all. Even those customers, we could convince that, okay, with this method, with online methods, we can do the inspections, we can interact with you, and very easily resolve your problems and interact. So those things have become very easy now. And wherever new customers are there, it is really seamless and very comfortable for our workforce. We are finding it really very good.
Very impressed. Yeah.
We always thought that it is not a cup of tea for a company like us, for a company like BHEL, which is slightly better than brick and mortar company and a hardcore manufacturing engineering. But we found that a lot of things can be done online. Well, except this welding or assembly or other things, there also we are trying for many automations.
Thank you. Let me
Hope I could.
Panda to come in now. Mr. Panda.
Yeah, thank you. It's very, you know, very needed intervention that we in country with the agriculture as the primary sector needed, especially when you have a large chunk of the population directly, indirectly dependent, and so more so for food security. There are few issues which they must have attended, but I would like to flag it. Like you have different ecological and agro regions, and they have varied cropping pattern traditionally. And how do we at the regional level can establish some kind of seed banks at least at a cluster or block level, so that a farmer can easily access? And do we apply some technology or storage facility for this? Number two, let's see, agriculture sector in our country suffers mostly because of risk and uncertainties and the vagaries of the nature. Like if you are growing crop, like traditionally every village had its own granary of seeds of the crops they traditionally grow. Now, if we shift to a kind of a commercial and a very ambitious mode, and are we taking people's interest away and taking the charge of agriculture to ourselves and making them dependent on then they're dependent on themselves? Number three, that you see, agriculture is part of the culture. In fact, most of the people have grown a variety of crops, and diversification of crops are taking place because of the initiatives the government taking place. And this diversification has opened many avenues for the farmers. It also includes risk and answer like cotton farming and etc. So how do we map the strength of the seed bank around the country with their potentiality with the land and production relationship? And have we done any work that what are the areas, what are the regions, what are the ecological zones that we have identified the potential for a certain number of crops, and these crops will do wonderful production in terms of its quantum, but at the same time, how do we channelize, or how do we arrange the disposal of these crops in time? And this disposal of crops in time will ensure the proper cost availability for the farmers. So all these are linked together. Like for example, in Ladakh, we have initiated many projects to introduce various crops depending upon that kind of cold desert region. But that's now they have gone to the extent of that not only they are consuming, but also supplying to the the defense establishment there. In a subsistence economy situation, when the farmers are in struggling post-famine period of British time, they have been put into a kind of a handicapness to take risks and uncertainties in the crop. Now we are, as a government, as a promoting agency, putting every effort to see that the production is increased across the crops, across the region, across the community. Then how do we manage, how do we bring people to manage themselves rather than we only do all the time hand only? Agriculture is a people's endeavor, and we only give a helping hand. But does it, our endeavors, do you feel that taking away their independence and their indigenous strength away?
Thank you, Panda Sahab. As far as seed banks you are saying, I think what I got that you wanted that the the indigenous varieties or the variety which farmer were taking, we have to maintain those variety for a particular taste. Like I'll give you the example. Yesterday we had a talk with the director IFAD, International Fund for Agriculture Development, and the APC of the APC of Nagaland. So he has raised the same issue that if somebody wants that Manipur black rice is to be grown or it is to be conserved, then how to do it? So government has now, I think they have made a project, and what government want, the seed bank should work for two things. One, for the new variety which are there, it is to be grown and processed, and another is the indigenous variety. If somebody wants to have the taste of that, of course it will be on very higher price, because the yield levels are not up to that mark. So within 3-4 villages, they want to develop one seed storage go down and one processing facility. So the infrastructure fund which the government has just announced, more than 1 lakh crore, I think they are taking care in that one. Now, as far as you told about the risk, of course, in agriculture, it is 100% dependent of climate. So climate dependency results in the risk. So risk, the government has just started Fasal Bima Yojana just to safeguard to the farmer. Of course, there are some hitches in coming, and it is still taking final shape, and some of the modifications are being done based on the experience and feedback. But Fasal Bima Yojana, of course, it is giving good help to the farmers, and it is highly subsidized by Government of India and state governments. So as far as you were telling that regarding various crops being grown by the farmer and how to reduce the risk, that is what we are asking the farmer, that please don't go for single crop. You try to diversify your crop, number one. Like we are saying that please go for intercropping. At the same time, on your boundaries of your field, put some plants so that you can have the income from those plants. At the same time, we are saying that please go for rearing the goat or the cow, so that you have some income from that. At the same time, you have the cow dung or the compost, and that will reduce your dependency on chemical fertilizer. So you will reduce the input cost, thereby you will reduce the risk. At the same time, now we are giving focus on stress tolerant varieties, the varieties which can tolerate the stress. So those varieties are also being, we are supplying the seed of stress tolerant variety. Like in Assam, in Assam and Bihar, you get the usual floods. So there is a variety which can sustain flood for 10 days. Submerged. Within 10 days, it will be, the crop is not going to suffer. So such kind of varieties also being produced so that risks are covered. And then you were telling there is a All India.
Well, Mr. Gaur, this is one subject which requires a whole lot of deep diving, and I know how passionate you are, and Mr. Panda, fortunately or unfortunately, has touched a chord with you, wherein he has ignited those flames, wherein I can see you're getting emotional about it. You're speaking from the heart. It's absolutely amazing, the kind of passion people bring to the table when it comes to delivering to the cause. And it's my congratulations to you, the way you spoke.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Panda, asking the right question, because otherwise it would have not brought the emotions in front of Mr.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. It's only the time that we have for this discussion, and we have another maybe 2 minutes or so before we start the Scotch Award announcements for this year. You have a poll on the discussion in front of you. You can rate it if you wish. It helps us improve. It helps all the participants improve. Also at the same time, it also proves how attentively did you participate in the discussion, more importantly, because this is an exercise in cross-pollination of ideas. It's an exercise in learning as well as mutual sharing. And with this, I thank all the participants in this panel.